So how do you think
Okay.
business owners can prevent themselves against the wrongdoings of their employee? So let's imagine you have a supermarket and your employee
Okay.
who is currently working with you commits a legal crime. How can you prevent yourself as a store owner so that the something will not come to your own business?
When I advise companies and when companies are trying to set up in Nigeria, there's usually a checklist of agreements that they must have. You must have it. Your employment contract must be sound. Your code of conduct must be sound. Your policies and regulations must be sound. If you have any non-compete or NDAs or whatever, they must be very sound and they must be very uptight. So when you have some of these things in place, in your employment contract, it will tell you your rules and responsibilities. It will tell you the extent of your powers. It will tell you, all of this that you can do and you cannot do. Vicarious liability is a concept that when your employee does something within the limits of their employment, within the course of their employment, then as an employer, you may be liable. For example, if I have a company that sells cars, for example, and then I ask one of my drivers to go and drop a car for a client, and while you are going to drop a car for the client, you get to, maybe Aja under bridge, and you know how the traffic of Aja under bridge is. You get there and then you hit someone. If you hit someone, it is in the course of employment. So your employer may be vicariously liable. That kind of thing, you know that it would now depend on the kind of employment contract. Okay, you know that, okay, this happened in the course of business. Things like insurance will come in. And that's the lawyer would advise you that you should get insurance. Things like that, the employer is going to be liable, vicarious liability and so on. And then it's now depend on, okay, like employee contract, what happened? Was it within the scope of your employment? I asked you to go and drop a car and we closed by 4, but you went to drop the car around 6 p.m. That is not within the scope of your employment anymore because we've closed 6 p.m. What were you doing in Aja under bridge with the client's car at 6 p.m.? I'm no longer liable because I am the employer and it was not done within. But if it was done within the course of employment, things like insurance and so on and so forth, those things will be the ones to come in place, and based on your code of conduct and policies, everything will help. So that's one way you can protect yourself.